Hi, everyone. Welcome to Happy Hippie Me. I'm Peely Bailey,
And I am Wendy Vaughn.
and we are so happy that you guys are tuning in tonight with us on our another Wellness Wednesday. Um, we are two people that are just passionate about sharing health and wellness and topics that really affect women, particularly women of color and specifically African American women. And so tonight we are excited about this topic that we're going to bring to you because I really do feel that it's a topic that um, connects all women and that really touches each one of us in some way, shape, or fashion. And so it's something that we just want to start the conversation around. And so I'm going to pass it over to my beautiful cousin, Wendy, to tell you what the topic is.
Yes. So tonight's topic we thought would be kind of fun to share our stories and some facts and some, I guess you can say, some ways that we've solved and eased some of these issues revolving body image. Body image, okay? So I ended up finding some really cool facts I'm going to just read. And if you were to Google body image, so much comes up. Now let's just play a pop quiz. Who do you think it affects the most? Men or women?
Body image?
Issues around body image.
Oh, women, hands down. Hands down.
Excellent. Okay. What do you think? Which age group? Young women or older women? If you were to characterize young women being anywhere from their early teens to maybe late 20s, that would be somewhere in early women stage, or even 30s. And then older women, they categorize in the 40 to 65.
I can say with a certain degree of confidence that it is the earlier stages of life, like when you turn 12 and you're like gangly and like you still look kind of like a baby, but then your limbs start to get longer. You're starting to get these like little pimples on your chest, you know, that are sore, and the boys are starting to look at your booty. Like it's just really uncomfortable. You get your period, like body image issues. I'm thinking it's going to be the early age.
Excellent. Okay, so let me explain 10 facts about body image. It says that 20 years ago, models weighed 8% less than average women. Today, they weigh 23% less than average women. Okay,
Whoa.
So within 20 years, body image has become an even bigger deal. The average American woman is 5'4" tall and weighs 140 pounds. The average American model is 5'11" and weighs 117 pounds. If Barbie were a real woman, she would have to walk on all fours due to her proportions. About 7% of 12th grade males have used steroids in order to become more muscular. So there are males who have, these issues around body image. Women want to be skinny, men want to be buff, right?
Yeah, like women are trying to shrink themselves away and men are trying to take up more space in life. There's something in that.
Right there.
Something in that.
Well, I mean, it's also in how women, in order to be a lady, they're supposed to kind of do like, look, I can't even in my
cross
own
your
home.
legs.
I'm over here like trying to like get all comfortable. Men spread out, and if a woman does that, they're looking at like, ooh, And if a man crosses his legs, it's kind of like
looked at, what's wrong with you?
So it is estimated that 40 to 50% of American women are trying to lose weight at any point in time. You guys, I just have to stop and say that we have a little commercial break or interference. I don't know if y'all can hear that ice cream truck out here.
We can't. Well, I can't. Maybe they can hear it on your side.
Okay. We're going to just leave that one alone. It is strong 8:11 p.m. on a Wednesday. No kids in sight. So
why is the ice cream truck riding down your street? Woo!
Use your imagination. But
My imagination is being used.
so we have, oh, 1 out of every 4 college-aged women have an eating disorder. And
Now, I mean, I understand the whole eating disorder thing in college. Like, first of all, you're poor, right? Like,
okay.
and then second of all, you're out partying all night long. You're not going to wake up to go to like the mess hall at like 7 a.m. and get breakfast.
This sounds like Peely is trying to make a case for why she starved me when she was a grad or post-grad student in Georgetown. I went to visit her and she fed me like 2 dumplings and snacks.
I did. I lived off of trail mix.
Boy, all I gotta say, that was like, oh, okay.
Trail mix and very strong coffee.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, Ren and Stimpy, like one eye shut up. But so, okay, but that's a good observation. But also, college is another one of those places where, for the first time, students are on their own, out of the comfort of, you know, mom cooking meals or dad buying meals, and it's like comparison central.
Or dad cooking meals.
Or
dad make it very. Especially your dad, girl. You know you better say dad cooking meals.
That's true, because he's mad if you don't say Happy Mother's Day to him on Mother's Day. But long story short, in college and like I said, the next stat, I said it earlier, but I think the ice cream truck distracted me. 40 to 50% of American women are trying to lose weight at any given point of their lives. Americans spend more than $40 billion a year on dieting and diet-related products.
Mm-hmm.
That's roughly equivalent to the amount the U.S. federal government spends on education each year.
Oh my gosh.
In 2007, there were about 11.7 million cosmetic procedures performed in the U.S. 91% of these were performed on women.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, a study found that 53% of 13-year-old American girls are unhappy with their bodies. This number grows to 78% by the time they reach 17. So that answered your question on age group, right?
Yeah.
What I researched, the next group, typically women who are older have grown accustomed to the quirks of their body. Oftentimes somewhere in the 30s, hormones switch, and or maybe you've had your first child or your first couple of children, and you know you're a little bit heavier than you were in your 20s. But then there's just other life stuff that has settled in normally, and you're just feeling a bit more confident in your body and like, hey, this is me. But I know the hormonal changes that happen with women during menopause and all of those different fun, health journeys that women go through in particular can also kick up other low esteem body image stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, I'm thinking, like, you know, it's interesting to be at the age that I'm at because I feel like I'm standing in the middle of the 2 age groups, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I totally remember what it was like to be 12 and 15 and 16 and whatever, you know, in my 20s, and just being unsure of myself and needing to show more skin, to get more attention, to have more esteem, you know, about how I was looking or whatever. And then the other phase where it's more of, okay, now my body is changing. Now my even my value to society is different, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a large percentage of society that still feels like a woman's main function is childbearing. And if you don't childbear, or if you know, are older and you're done with that phase of your life, then what is your worth? What is your value?
Exactly. I mean, there are a lot of a true story. So because of my health journey, you know, the Crohn's thing we talked about last week, I don't know how far I went into the medication causing the onset of cancer, but going through chemotherapy only for 6 cycles. Okay. So some people have to be on it much, much longer than that.
Yeah.
I was in remission quite early. But just in that short amount of time on being on that kind of a drug, it totally revamped my body chemistry. It sent me into an early menopause. And I'm talking about, I was postmenopausal when I went to my doctors, and they were ready to put me on hormone replacement therapy and just say, oh, well, we didn't have time to harvest any eggs. The cancer was too aggressive, and oh, well, like this is not a high percentage that can happen with women, but unfortunately it happened to you. I was done. I felt like I have no control, like none at all. I'm just, it was a really interesting place, not to mention I had just turned 36. So I don't know what happens at that tender age or that not so tender age, but hormones. I mean, I've pretty much been the same size for over a decade. Granted, I had been battling that whole Crohn's deal. So my normal was 15 pounds less than what I am now. And I don't think I'm fat now, but at that time, still working out, still eating pretty much, like a bird because of the health condition and stuff. And I just started growing, to me, exponentially. Oh, I was done. I was really upset. I was.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I look at pictures of myself from, in my 20s and early 30s. No, really, most of my 20s, like I would say after college, I had gotten heavy. I did the whole freshman 15 and then just kept on eating, right? Like I was just happy. But I was happy and I was sexy, right? Because for the first time, I was around people of color who actually appreciated a woman with like curves. And that was not what I had grown up in as a...
Wait, explain a little bit about where
okay,
you grew
so
up.
I grew up in an area that was predominantly white and Asian. Like, so I was in, my elementary school, large elementary school. I was the only Black girl from kindergarten through 6th grade in the entire school. And there were like a few Armenians. There were a few like Indians, like Southeast India. And that was it, And so for me, I didn't really have anyone to identify with. And my body was different. There were a lot of the other girls, they were very slender. My hair was different. A lot of the other girls, they had, straight hair and it was long and it flowed. And, my hair was never straight, and it was most of the time braided. And so then that was a conversation because then they could see I had the cornrows, they could see my scalp. And so I was made to know that my appearance was different and other, and to a certain extent bad, right? It was not the desirable appearance in the environment that I was in. So from a very young age, I had a self image that was not great. Because my message that I wrote because I was different was different is bad. My message that I wrote because there was no one that looked like me and there was no one I could relate to was, you're not as beautiful as other kids, or, whatever those things are. So that's a whole nother body image identity issue. That ties into the last video we did where you talked about the politics of your body.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. You totally remembered. The politics of your body when you step into a place, how people break you down. But it does play into body image because of where we live. So you made a great point to say later on in life when you got around more people who looked like you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal about belonging and feeling comfortable in your own skin.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually had a lot to do with it. Not to mention there were statistics that I found as well that talked about how our media and even in this, you know, our standard of beauty, G.I. Joe and Barbie, they don't represent anybody in the population. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Barbie cannot walk if she were a real live human being. Okay.
Right.
So that's white, black, and different. So just when you start slapping on all of those other characteristics that make us who we are,
yeah,
it starts to get pretty weird.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so like if we were to take it back to the body image, you know, just the body image, I remember I had a little friend that I would spend the night at her house, right? And I remember we would go to the pool and she would wear a bikini. Well, my midsection has never been flat. And so for me, you know, my mom told me, you can't wear a bikini. You know, you need to cover that up. So that's like a whole other dynamic, right? Of like,
your influences.
You're looking, I'm here with this girl who's slender and beautiful, and then she can wear a bikini, and my mom is like, nope, you can't wear that. You have to cover yourself, you know? And I'm sure my mom was like more about the modesty of it, you know, more about like, my mom was like, was really, and we called her church lady, right? She was really into, you know, church. And so things were very much, it was either good or it was bad.
Do you remember how I got in trouble when we went somewhere? I don't know if it was our church picnic, but I wore one thing out of the house and I changed and it got back to them and I got in trouble. My aunt was like,
oh yes. We went with the church, but we went to like Magic Mountain or something.
Right.
Yes. Yes. I do.
Kids will be kids now. But I thought that was pretty funny that you mentioned that she was church lady.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But then also, I mean, just the experience of, you know, being in a heavier body. I remember sitting, you know, kids are wearing shorts. I remember sitting down and my legs, you know, my thighs did not stay separated, you know, and for that even, you know, I know a few years ago, that was a standard of beauty, right? The thigh gap.
You know, so this is the other thing. Exactly. You're right. And I didn't know that was a big deal. So one of the characteristics of Crohn's disease is that you lose weight and you lose it fast. Like I could gain and lose 10 pounds. It felt like in a day. Maybe of course it was, I'm sure, like 2 or 3 days, but it was crazy how like much stress my body was under because it wasn't absorbing the nutrients or whatnot in my foods. And the sheer amount of time as you go to the restroom when you're having those episodes. So people thought I was cute. I got a lot of positive reinforcement. I never really liked a lot of attention surrounding my body. In the sense that I never completely felt comfortable. Like I was cool liking the way I looked, but if somebody else, like I would catch girls staring at me, not even necessarily in a bad way, but like we're having a conversation. I loved working out. Like I'm one of those people who like Peely, you know, she's a yoga therapist. So that's something like health and fitness and wellness. All that is like her. Some people only work out because they have to maintain health. They have to do it, but we do it because we love to do it. So that was a cool aspect. So I'm like working out and they're like looking at me as I'm talking and asking like how I do this and that. And it always made me feel even more self-conscious, you know? So whether I was getting it from men when I got thicker and healthier again, and they're looking at my butt or, you know, my thighs and giving me like that, oh, mama, you that thick, or there's a word called slim thick, all this kind of stuff. Whatever that is, I just never liked it. So I like to kind of, one of the things I found that came with being thinner is that, you know, I'm a fun, bubbly kind of personality. So I naturally get certain attention, but I was able to like kind of go under the radar a little bit. Like, I could throw on anything and it not look too like now I throw on some of the dresses I wore 15 pounds ago and it looks like I'm going to the club. It looks
like you're trying to get attention.
I'm trying.
You
I'm like,
put that on.
No, so I was like, I told somebody, I said, this booty brings a lot of responsibility. Like,
I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're ready.
I have to be conscious. I can't just walk out the door like you can. And now I understand what some of my sisters and folks have been going through for years.
Right.
But it took
well,
me a while
I have never been well endowed in the Tookus region. And I seem to remember cousins that used to make fun of it.
Did we?
Yes. They're like, what happened to your butt? Why don't you have a butt?
I don't know. Well, we had another aunt, right, who was extremely accepting and appreciative of our shapes. And we learned that we have the Hutchison bow hips and all this kind of stuff. Like this was like a prize thing. I remember a lot of my sense of womanhood and loving our bodies and our curves came from one of our aunts that Pila and I both share. And it's important for, she used to have, when she would come into town, those conversations in the kitchen at the Glendale house and just talking about, some stories and tales of, her admirers and stuff. And
I love that as you're using your hands, I know exactly which aunt you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Right. Exactly. So she's extremely.
We love you, Auntie.
Yes. We love you so much. But it was the exact opposite of what I think we both experienced from different people in our lives that made us feel even more self-conscious. So it was one of the few positive, like direct talking about body and how beautiful you are and how you can cherish that and how it's a good thing to have, so.
Wow, that is powerful. I mean, I wish that I had been present to those conversations because my life might have been quite different. No, I am grateful for the life that I've had and I'm grateful for where I am today, but I definitely had a lot of body image stuff that I had to work through, root out, and just replace with truth and with self-love and grace. And gosh, this is like, I have two different directions I want to go with this right now because this is like so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about what it was like to go from, the chubby best friend, right, in the romantic comedy to the leading lady. So
I like this.
I do feel that I've gotten to experience both of those dynamics.
Wow.
And the chubby best friend never gets really noticed, is always the one that everybody like relies on and expects to be around. But the guys are just their friends, right? You're the one that the guys are going to talk about, they're going to talk about the other girls with you, so that was my experience, like high school kind of thing. And then, college was definitely different. College, I definitely found that I had some mojo and people were like, checking me. And I was like, okay, this is good. But then what ended up happening was my self-worth, my self-esteem became tied to the attraction of others. So that was not like a good place to be.
Right.
And then I feel like after getting to, you grow up, you realize you're kind of like, no, I have more value than this. Then you move to the other side of it. And I feel like that's where I moved to when I got into that place where working out for me was just my happy place. Like literally, I think it was like my endorphins, it was helping to balance the biochemicals in my brain, right? It was like my release. Like I spent 60 hours a week in the lab, at Georgetown. And so it was like on the weekends, I was like that weekend warrior, and then needing to like walk everywhere. So I just became a part of my daily life to move. And then I started to realize how much it was helping me with my moods, how much it was helping me with, my the way my mind worked and things like that. And then when I kind of moved into like teaching, yoga and really like living in gyms and in that kind of environment, I lost weight. I lost a lot of weight. And then I was like thin, and people were like, oh my gosh, like you're so beautiful. And I had these long dreadlocks. And like, I look back at pictures and I'm like, yeah, like, so that was fun. But I really got a chance to see what it felt like to be the person that was getting the attention, whereas before I was not the person getting the attention. It was like, so just kind of getting that reinforcement of the thinner you are, the more fit you are, you know what I mean? The more you're getting attention, right?
Right.
And I think that might be part of the reason why it's so hard for us women to divorce ourselves from this standard, right? Because we're being told that the beautiful girl gets the guy. And then we're also being told that the normal, average, hokey doke, middle-aged guy gets a hot ass chick. Like, can we just talk about that disparity too?
Can we? I don't know.
No.
No, let's look at like news anchors. Remember Good Day LA, Jillian Barberie, hot as she wants to be. She's still beautiful, but when we were in school still, 20 years ago, she looked amazing, young, and her co-host was another woman, and then she had Steve Edwards, who was older than both of those ladies, and he was a handsome man. He was well groomed, but he wasn't looking like they were looking. Mm-hmm. So, the standard for men, even look at in our entertainment, a lot of times men look a lot different than the women do. But it's also because I think that body image thing for men tends to be more on security. Do you have the money to take care of this?
Basically, if you have enough resources, you don't really have to care about how you look.
Right. And I think that is something that some men feel very comfortable with, and they're not motivated to self-care as much as women are. And that's something I would love to see shift, in the future. But you like what you like, you love what you love. I know some people naturally have a distrust for very thin, fit looking people, because there's this idea that the prettier you are, when the fitter you are in terms of the standard beauty, the more bitchy you're supposed to be. Like, I've literally had people say, Wendy, you're too nice to be like the way you look. You like it would throw people off when I was just kind to them, period. And they were more used to somebody who they consider to be pretty to be bitchy. So there's a lot of weird things that go along with this body image thing, and it'll have you questioning a lot about yourself if you're not confident and secure in who you are. And then there's this thing. So our influences, if your influences are the media, social media, what we hear in songs, what our parents tell us and our friends, and then what we can observe. Think about how influences, this is a chain of reaction that all comes down to building your character. Influences, thinking, what influences you helps you create your thoughts, helps create your feelings, helps make your decision making, then your actions, your habits, and then finally your character.
Mm-hmm.
So you can literally take anything in the world and look at your influences all the way down that whole train that I just spoke about, how it ends up developing your character and, of course, your esteem in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the self-love thing, being grateful for everything that you have exactly where you are, that is so important. You know, I didn't really like driving very much, but after I was so sick that I couldn't drive and I had to be dependent on all kinds of folks, I really, 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 really appreciate driving now as an adult, because that was taken away from me. So I remember when I couldn't walk properly because I was in so much pain. I was 118 pounds, but I couldn't, if someone wanted to ask me on a date, I couldn't even go. I didn't have the energy. I didn't feel good enough, anything. I feel great. I feel great now, you know? So these are the things that we have to, sometimes we have to go through the losses to really understand what we have. And let's just be real. Wanting to better yourself in a healthy manner in terms of how you look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Where it starts to get to the abnormal areas is this something else that I found: body dysmorphic disorder. So this is not necessarily bulimia or anorexia or any of those, but this one is abbreviated BDD. And it's real or imagined physical flaws come to rule lives. Like, it takes all of your attention.
Yeah.
It says that 1% of the population, men and women alike, experience this. There's even in the show This Is Us, there's a character, that really thin, beautiful blonde girl is in this like Overeaters Anonymous group or whatever, because she's suffering from what I just explained right there, that BDD. When she looks in the mirror, she truly does not see what's actually in front of her. And I think this body image issue that many, many women deal with, to an extent, not in the sense of, you know, what maybe that young lady in that show is going through, but people do suffer from, I don't think, really being able to see what's actually in front of them when it comes to their,
being able to see themselves as they truly are.
Right.
Which is something that I like. It reminds me of just, you know, in the yogic philosophy of, you know, doing yoga to get to your true self, to really, you know, strip away from all of the constructs that we have put on our true self to be in this world, to get back to who, as a very, you know, the first breath of life that was breathed into you, who are you? Who are you? Speaking to that very pure, very blameless, very, you know, perfect individual.
Right.
That is the reflection of divinity. That is the reflection of God. And how do you get to that place? And I find that where yoga really helps with the body image is that you really have to get inside of your body. You become very aware of the muscles that are moving and how the bones are arranged. You become very aware of where the movement is originating from. And it's something that can't be seen, but it can be felt, and it
Mm-hmm.
can be experienced, and it can be known.
Mm-hmm.
And in being embodied,
Mm-hmm.
you no longer have to rely on the external pieces that reflect you, because you're in your body. You feel you, you know you
I love.
perceive you without needing the image of the external world. Like, so when I teach yoga in a class, I tend to sit where the students have to sit with their back against a mirror. So like if there is a mirror, like I don't enjoy teaching as much in places that have a mirror. But I just basically have them turn away from the mirror, because to rely on the mirror, that is an image, and that image is reflecting the way it sees you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to see you. And that
Mm-hmm.
happens from the very inside out.
Peely.
Yeah.
I was going to mention something about that, but you literally covered all bases from a very yoga-centric and spiritual manner, which is brilliant. But it goes right into what you were saying. If you think about it, when you had the a bit smaller in size and all that stuff, what other people had to say about you became very addictive.
Yeah.
It became something that you relied on in order to feel who you were.
Yep.
Opposed to that thing inside. And that is one of the things we have to balance. Don Miguel Ruiz, his book called The Four Agreements, he instructs us to not take things personally from our exterior, from other people, and sometimes even our own mental, because sometimes our worst critics are right here.
Right here. Yeah.
You know, because we're doing this thing.
That's
It's
real.
always because we're comparing.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking outer and we're looking outer at an old picture, and then we're coming back here. When we do what she just spoke about, really being in tune with the here and now, honoring the present, and then finding that strength and that power in the present, that's one of the cures, if you ask me. And I'm going to say that term in the sense that when we trip on stuff that in the moment it seems like everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this to belittle it, because I do it too. It's just part of human nature. But when we are able to get out of that and really like ground ourselves, it's amazing the kind of energy, it's amazing the kind of strength. Stuff starts to fall into place, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not worried about doing all this stuff and trying to, run 5 miles a week when I'm already working 40 hours and being a wife and being a mother and doing all of these things. Like that, striving for this body image and this perfection, when half the stuff we see on TV and in movies and also, our magazines, it's airbrushed to damn pieces. They have so many before and after things out there that it's unbelievable. But we're looking at that and going, we're not good enough.
I have to attain that.
It. And
I will put myself under excruciating circumstances, under torturous pain, under surgery, under starvation, under, I'm going to pump myself full of every type of diet pill or drink or whatever, and don't want to step on anybody's toes. Like, I love the green smoothie, but that's not in place of food.
Right.
Like,
I love juicing. I love my beet juice.
I love juicing. I love my beet juice. My body sometimes does need a break from digestion, but it doesn't need to be a 30, let's say 15 days out of the month, I'm going to be just juicing. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, I mean, like, unless you're doing it for a very concentrated.
Unless you're doing a juice cleanse. Yeah. If you're doing a cleanse, you're doing a fast, like, go for it,
Right.
If you're 40 days and nights, you're going for it, for whatever your spiritual reasons are.
Right.
Do your thing. Do you.
Right.
But like, make sure that the motive really is what the motive is, because sometimes, and I did this, that's why I'm speaking to it.
Right.
I'm speaking to it from a place of like, yes, like this was how I lived when I had Wendy come out to DC with me.
Well, yeah, I was like,
I was all about eating the juices. Today, I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to drink, like I was in that.
I mean, and this is once again what we're talking about in terms of if you're on some kind of special diet for health, or, I know intermittent fasting, like when you wake up waiting until 12, that actually has been shown to have a lot of significant health things. But as much as we say be an advocate for yourself when it comes to your doctors, you also have to be an advocate for just the self you are in that moment. Sometimes you're able to do things, and then, 2 months down the line, a year down the line, your body needs something else. Shoot, even our makeup and our deodorant and our shampoo, sometimes it loses its effectiveness because we're always steadily evolving. So we have to pay attention to what our body actually needs. True story. I can't tell you the number of times now, I know better in all this stuff. I skip breakfast a lot because I'm rushing out of that door, and I don't always realize it, because there was a once upon a time when I literally could do that and just be like, just going. Well, guess what? That day is gone. So when I am feeling lightheaded sometimes and like, oh geez, I have like this crazy headache and I'm trying to figure out, man, what did I do wrong? I didn't get enough sleep. And then I get like a little morsel, something,
a tender nut,
this thing called, right, exactly, a tender nut. And then guess what happens? I'm like, oh, I need food.
That's what I needed.
Food.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the other thing. Like I have a friend, she has a nonprofit called Alive and Well Women, and she is a licensed marriage and family therapist who works with women with eating disorders. But through her work for like over 20 years of women with eating disorders, she got to the point where she realized that even some of her other female clients were struggling with some of these things we've talked about, this, the body dysmorphic, the, restriction of food, where you kind of moralize eating or not eating. Today we're going to be good. We're not going to have, I'm going to have just a salad and some granola. I was good this week, but, last week I went out and got my burgers and my fries and my pizza, you know what I mean? And so, I was so bad I had that piece of cake. Those kinds of things, we moralize food. And so even in doing that, it's a way of causing your body, harm, right? Like you're causing yourself harm, because it's so much about needing to control so that you can fit into whatever your standard of beauty is, right? So, but just kind of hearing that. And so she started this nonprofit because this is for the other women, I don't know what your percentage was about women who struggle with body disorder, but like, if there's 2%, I don't know what do you remember your statistic was?
For the BDD, it was 1% men and women, because it's such an extreme version, but just people in general who suffer. I mean, 13 to 17-year-olds, we have like a 78%, even then.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, just basically she was like, there are so many women that struggle with this. We need to have a nonprofit organization just to bring a tribe together, to be able to start having these conversations, to be able to start, questioning, well, why do I believe that I need to be a size 6 to be happy? Like, to be able to start really kind of diving into, is that real? Is that truly what's right for me? Like you're saying. And so I love it. And she's also a yoga teacher. So we also, she has this whole thing around mindfulness, eating. So basically being mindful of what it is that your body needs. So like if oh, today, my husband worked from home today. And so, we had just had lunch, maybe it was like an hour later, and he's in the kitchen like, I'm so hungry, I need to eat something. And I'm like, babe, have you had water today? Just mentioning it. Try to drink some water before you get something to eat. And he did, and he's like, oh, I was just thirsty.
That's true.
Right?
Dehydration.
So we don't always know what the signs are that our body is giving us, and sometimes we misread those signs. Just like sometimes when we're stressed out or anxious, our body is saying, I need sugar. Or when you're in pain, your body is like, give me the sugar, because it activates some of the same receptors in the brain that like morphine would, or cocaine, or one of those very addictive substances. I can't remember which one it is.
If a Snicker can make me feel like I'm on morphine, I'm about to break that. I'm about to go ahead and take a break and have some.
No, but seriously, like, you wonder why sometimes people have these insatiable cravings for sugar and they're going through chronic pain.
I believe that. I was working at my desk one day and I had all my healthy snacks. I had water this day, but I just needed a little bit of actual chocolate. I think it was like a fun size Snicker or whatever it was, but whatever I was feeling went away. Like there was actually like a pain that was starting to happen, and I just needed like that extra pick me up that sugar could bring. Cause I drink my coffee black. Like this is tea tonight. Oh, and by the way, I love the fact that my tea is the two words are comfort and connect.
Love it.
But my point is, some of these things that we've moralized, when you said that, guys, guess what? The immune system has a moral compass. When you do things that you feel are bad, your body actually creates chemicals. And when you do things from like a compassionate way or a positive way, from the affirmative, it creates other types of, and I'm doing this because the respiratory system. So this information, I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly the name. I know it's called IDAs. If you have a high volume of IDAs, and that's something that is found in the blood, which really helps probably inflammation in your respiratory system. When you watch things that enforce compassion, like Mother Teresa doing things in certain countries or something like that, that actually does a lot to boost your immune system.
Wow.
That's why gratitude is one of the highest vibrating emotions that you can have. Wow. Love is up there. And it's hard to go from a low state to a high state overnight. It's just like trying to push like a boulder up a hill. It's better if you just kind of stay at a, you know what, this is pretty good. Contentment is higher than sadness, so we're not saying you have to be overjoyed about how you look, but acceptance is now we're getting somewhere. So when we start pushing for the other things, it's going to have more momentum there. So everything that you just said, Pili, about your friend and finding out that moralizing your food, I'm telling you, that has a big effect on whether or not it goes through you, and whether or not it chills a little bit on them hips.
Right. Yeah.
Because also, Louise Hay tells us, this book, Pili was quoting from it last episode, but this book, You Can Heal Your Life, extra weight gain is a sign of your body trying to protect itself. So if you're telling yourself, man, I'm bad because I'm eating this. Now your body's trying to protect itself from this thing that you just told it it's bad. So our words are sometimes in our subconscious, we think that we're just saying them in passing, but they do have an effect on both our very conscious mind, our bodies, our physical bodies, and then our psyche.
Man, that is, oh my gosh. I mean, I think we could go on with this topic for another couple of hours, but
I
I
know.
think like we have hit some landmines, right? We've hit some
Right.
places that I think we're going to have to kind of um, let the dust settle in
Yeah.
some of these areas and then
Yeah.
kind of regroup and look at yourself and say, okay, where am I in this spectrum of, you know, body and how I view myself
Right.
and what I, you know, think of me. And just, I mean, that's the deep work, right?
Right.
That's the deep work. And so, um, we're all about helping people to ask these questions, right?
Right.
To come to their own answers, to do their own research, and even just to start this conversation around body image. And we would love to hear from you guys. So, like, if any of the things that we have talked about tonight
Yes.
feel has inspired you or has, you know, lit a fire under you to talk a little bit about it with us, we would love to hear from you.
Yes.
So please go ahead and comment on the video, message us.
Right.
We're on Facebook
Yes.
and Instagram, so you can definitely connect with us there. Happy Hippie Me.
Yes.
And we would just love to hear from you guys. We want to build a tribe around these health and wellness conversations. And we are just
Yes.
so excited that you guys have tuned in tonight. If you want to get more of these videos coming to you, make sure that you subscribe.
Yes.
And yeah, did you want to say any parting words, Wendy?
I think you've covered it. Definitely subscribe. Last but not least, being grateful for the good in the moment you're in doesn't mean that you're not going to see the progress of where it else that you want to go. I think some people are hesitant to say, I accept me for who I am in this moment because they think it means they're going to stay in that same moment. And that's not true. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Peely, for sharing and being so transparent. I really learned a lot, as I always do. Stay tuned and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.